Hey there. Before we dive into this incredible story, I'm curious, where are you watching from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if you're enjoying these life-changing stories, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and smash the like button. It really helps us share more inspiring content. Now let me tell you about $15 that completely transformed 2 lives in ways nobody could have imagined. The Arizona sun blazed mercilessly as Michael Thompson adjusted his Ray-Ban aviators and stepped out of his gleaming black Honda Civic. At 32, he cut an impressive figure in his crisp Ralph Lauren polo shirt and designer jeans, every inch the successful Phoenix real estate mogul he believed himself to be. The Kroger supermarket in Roosevelt District hummed with late afternoon activity, but Michael barely noticed the working-class families navigating their shopping carts with careful precision. His phone buzzed with a text from Ashley. "Can't wait for tonight, babe. Make sure you get the good wine." Michael smiled, thinking of his Instagram influencer girlfriend and their planned evening at Kai, the 5-star restaurant at Wild Horse Pass Resort. 2 months of dating, and Ashley still made his heart race with her perfectly curated lifestyle photos and infectious energy. Michael grabbed a cart and moved through the aisles with purpose. Norwegian salmon, $42. California Chardonnay, $68. Aged Gruyere cheese, $35. Everything had to be perfect for Ashley. She had a way of making him feel like he needed to prove himself constantly, though he'd never admit it aloud. "Excuse me, sir." A soft voice interrupted his thoughts. He turned to see Jennifer Martinez, a woman in her late 30s, wearing a navy blue cleaning service uniform, guiding her young daughter through the produce section. The little girl, maybe 8 years old, clutched a small coin purse with both hands. "Mom, can we get the strawberries? They're Emily Claire's favorite," the child whispered, tugging at her mother's sleeve. "Not today, mija." "We need to stick to the list," Jennifer replied gently, her voice carrying the weight of difficult choices. Michael observed the interaction with detached curiosity before continuing his shopping spree. By the time he reached checkout line 3, his cart overflowed with gourmet delicacies, totaling nearly $300. He positioned himself behind Jennifer and her daughter, tapping his Platinum American Express card against his phone case with confident rhythm. The checkout clerk, a teenage boy with acne scars and tired eyes, began scanning Michael's items with mechanical efficiency. "That'll be $287.23, sir." Michael slid his card into the chip reader and waited for the familiar beep of approval. Instead, a harsh buzz filled the air. "Declined, sir. Do you have another card?" "That's impossible," Michael laughed, the sound hollow even to his own ears. "Try it again." The same result. Michael's confident smile began to crack as he fumbled for his backup visa. "Declined." His face flushed as whispers started behind him in line. "This is ridiculous," he muttered, pulling out his business credit card. The machine's rejection felt like a physical slap. "Sir, all your cards are being declined," the clerk announced loud enough for half the store to hear. The whispers grew louder. "Look at Mr. Big Shot now. Guess that fancy shirt doesn't pay for groceries. Always the ones who look richest that got nothing in the bank." Michael's world tilted on its axis. For the first time in years, he felt the crushing weight of his childhood poverty pressing down on his shoulders. The shame of his mother's tired hands sewing late into the night, his father's construction dust clothes hanging by the door, the generic cereal and government cheese that had sustained his family. How could this be happening? Just this morning he'd closed a deal worth 6 figures. His business account should be flush with commission money, unless... The realization hit him like a freight train. David Miller, his business partner, controlled most of their joint accounts. And David had been acting strange lately, making excuses about delayed payments and tied-up funds. "Look, I can call my bank," Michael started, but the snickers from the growing line behind him cut off his words. That's when he noticed Emily Claire Martinez watching him with huge, compassionate brown eyes that seemed to see straight into his soul. Emily Claire Martinez had been collecting quarters, dimes, and nickels for 3 months. Every Saturday, she helped Mrs. Carmen sweep the sidewalk in front of her small corner store, earning 50 cents each time. On Sundays, she carried grocery bags for Mr. Antonio, the elderly man who lived 2 doors down from their apartment, earning another $1. Slowly, steadily, her small coin purse had grown heavy with $15 worth of dreams. She was saving for a new backpack, one without the duct tape patches that held her current one together. But as she watched the tall man in the expensive clothes crumble before her eyes, Emily Claire felt something her mother had taught her was more important than any material possession: compassion. "Mom," she whispered, tugging Jennifer's sleeve. "Not now, Mija, this isn't our business," Jennifer replied, her own discomfort evident as she watched Michael's public humiliation unfold. But Emily Claire had already made her decision. She slipped her small hand from her mother's grip and approached Michael, her coin purse clutched tightly against her chest. "Excuse me, sir." Her voice was barely above a whisper, but it cut through the cruel laughter like a blade. "I have some money. You can have it." The supermarket fell silent. Michael looked down at the small girl extending her precious coin purse toward him with both hands, her face serious and determined. "Sweetheart, I can't," Michael began, his voice cracking. "My mama always says we should help people when they're having a hard time," Emily Claire insisted, pressing the purse into his hands. "It's okay. I was going to buy a backpack, but backpacks can wait." Michael felt the weight of the coins, not just their physical weight, but the weight of this child's entire savings freely given to a stranger. Tears threatened to spill from his eyes as he looked into Emily Claire's innocent face. "Emily Claire, get back here right now," Jennifer called sharply, mortified by her daughter's boldness. "It's all right," Michael said softly, kneeling to Emily Claire's eye level. "What's your name, Angel?" "Emily Claire Martinez." "What's yours?" Michael Thompson." He pressed the coin purse back into her hands. "And you keep this money, Emily Claire. But I want to buy you something with it, okay?" Michael stood and addressed the clerk, his voice stronger now. "Cancel everything except—" He scanned the conveyor belt and grabbed a Snickers bar from the candy display. "Just this." The clerk rang up the candy bar. $1.50. Michael took $2 from Emily Claire's purse and handed them over, then gave the candy to the little girl along with her money. "Thank you for reminding me what really matters," he told her. As Michael walked toward the exit empty-handed, but somehow feeling fuller than he had in years, he heard Emily Claire call after him. "Mr. Michael, I hope tomorrow is better for you." Outside in the parking lot, Michael sat in his car for 20 minutes, staring at his reflection in the rearview mirror. The successful businessman he'd crafted so carefully was nothing but a facade, and it had taken an 8-year-old girl to show him the truth. His phone buzzed with another text from Ashley. "Where are you? Reservation is in an hour." Michael typed back, "Something came up? Rain check?" Her response was immediate and cold. "Seriously? This is so embarrassing. Don't bother calling me." As Michael drove home to his empty downtown apartment, he realized that for the first time in months, he wasn't devastated by Ashley's rejection. Instead, he couldn't stop thinking about a little girl who'd given a stranger her dreams without hesitation. But what he didn't know was that tomorrow would bring news that would make his credit card troubles seem like a minor inconvenience. Michael's downtown Phoenix apartment usually felt like a sanctuary of success, floor-to-ceiling windows, showcasing the sprawling cityscape, Italian leather furniture, and abstract art that cost more than most people's cars. But as dawn broke over the Sonoran desert, the space felt hollow and cold. He'd spent the night on his balcony, unable to sleep, replaying Emily Claire's simple act of kindness over and over. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw her small hands extending that coin purse, heard her gentle voice saying, "Backpacks can wait." His phone had buzzed incessantly with messages from Ashley, angry at first, then manipulative, finally dismissive. "You're obviously not as successful as you pretend to be. I need someone who can actually provide stability." The words should have stung, but instead, Michael felt oddly relieved. At 7 a.m. sharp, Michael called his bank. The automated system cheerfully informed him that his accounts had been frozen, pending an investigation into suspicious activity. His business partner, David Miller, had made several large withdrawals without Michael's knowledge, draining their joint accounts and leaving insufficient funds to cover Michael's automatic payments. "Mr. Thompson, we need you to come in immediately," the bank manager informed him when Michael finally reached a human. "There are some serious irregularities we need to discuss." Michael's hands shook as he hung up. David had been acting strange for weeks, taking private calls, avoiding Michael's questions about their latest development project, making excuses about delayed investor payments. The signs had been there, but Michael had been too caught up in his own lifestyle to pay attention. At Thompson and Associates Real Estate Development, Sandra Wilkins, his secretary of 5 years, greeted him with worried eyes. "Michael, there are federal agents here to see you. They've been waiting since 6 a.m. The FBI agents were professional but direct. David Miller had disappeared overnight, taking with him nearly $2 million from their company accounts and leaving behind evidence that implicated Michael in several questionable deals. Bank records, forged documents, suspicious cash transactions, all bearing Michael's signature or authorization. Mr. Thompson, you're not under arrest at this time, but we strongly advise you to retain legal counsel, Agent Rodriguez explained. Your partner has made some serious allegations. As the agents left with boxes of files, Michael sank into his office chair, his entire world crumbling around him. Sandra stood in the doorway, her loyalty evident despite the circumstances. I know you didn't do this, she said quietly. David was always the one pushing those gray area deals. You were just distracted. Michael knew she was right. For months, he'd been so focused on maintaining his image, on impressing Ashley, on playing the part of the successful entrepreneur, that he'd let David handle more and more of their business operations. He'd signed documents without reading them, authorized payments without questioning them, trusted his partner completely. Sandra, I need you to help me find someone, Michael said suddenly, an image of Emily Claire's compassionate eyes filling his mind. A little girl named Emily Claire Martinez. Her mother works as a cleaner somewhere in Phoenix. Sandra looked confused but nodded. Of course, what do you need her for? I need to thank her properly and… Michael paused, a plan beginning to form in his mind. I think she might be the only honest person in this whole damn city. As Sandra began making calls, Michael stood at his window looking out over Phoenix. Somewhere in this sprawling desert metropolis was a little girl who'd shown him more about character in 5 minutes than he'd learned in 32 years. If his world was going to collapse anyway, maybe it was time to rebuild it on a foundation that actually mattered. But first, he had to find Emily Claire Martinez, because something told him that the girl who'd offered her last $15 to a stranger might be the key to saving what was left of his soul. What Michael didn't realize was that Emily Claire had spent the entire night thinking about him too, praying to her late father's photograph that the sad man from the supermarket would find his way home. Sandra's network of contacts in Phoenix proved invaluable. Within 3 phone calls, she'd traced Jennifer Martinez to Sunshine Cleaning Services, which provided housekeeping for several high-end neighborhoods in Ahwatukee and Tempe. The company's dispatcher, Maria Gonzalez, remembered Jennifer well. She's one of our best workers, Maria explained over the phone. Never misses a day, always goes above and beyond. Works 3 houses regularly, the Thompsons in Ahwatukee. She paused, realizing the irony of the shared surname, the Richardsons in Tempe, and some office buildings downtown on weekends. Michael felt a strange sense of destiny at the coincidence of names. As he drove toward the Ahwatukee address in his Civic, he'd changed from his usual business attire into simple jeans and a plain white t-shirt. For the first time in years, he wanted to be seen for who he really was, not the image he'd carefully constructed. The gated community where Jennifer was working epitomized Phoenix's new money. Spanish colonial mansions with meticulously maintained desert landscaping, 3-car garages, and swimming pools that sparkled like jewels under the Arizona sun. Michael had helped develop a similar community just 2 years ago, before David's influence had pushed him toward increasingly questionable practices. He found Jennifer's beat-up Toyota Corolla parked outside a sprawling home on Desert Vista Drive. Through the front windows he could see her methodically cleaning, her movements efficient and dignified, despite the circumstances that had forced her into service work. Michael sat in his car for nearly an hour, rehearsing what he would say. How do you approach someone whose 8-year-old daughter had shown you more kindness than you deserved? How do you explain that their small act of generosity had become the catalyst for facing the lies you'd been living? When Jennifer finally emerged, wheeling a cart of cleaning supplies toward her car, Michael approached carefully. "Excuse me, Mrs. Martinez." Jennifer turned, her expression immediately wary. She'd learned to be cautious around well-dressed strangers, especially in these affluent neighborhoods, where she was often treated as invisible. "Yes? Can I help you? My name is Michael Thompson. Yesterday at the Kroger supermarket, your daughter Emily Claire," he faltered, emotion catching in his throat. "She helped me when I was having the worst moment of my life." Recognition dawned in Jennifer's dark eyes, followed quickly by concern. "Oh, you're the man from the store. Are you all right? Emily Claire was worried about you all night." The simple statement hit Michael like a physical blow. This child had been worried about him, a complete stranger who'd been publicly humiliated, while he'd been wallowing in self-pity about his ruined dinner plans. "Mrs. Martinez, I need to properly thank her and you. What your daughter did." Michael struggled to find words adequate to express what he felt. "It changed something in me, something that needed changing." Jennifer studied his face carefully, She'd raised her daughter to be compassionate, but she'd also learned that the world could be dangerous for those who trusted too easily. "We're doing fine, Mr. Thompson. Emily Clare doesn't need anything from you." "Please," Michael said, his voice raw with honesty. "I'm not trying to interfere or make you uncomfortable. But your daughter showed me what real wealth looks like, and I want to do something meaningful with that lesson. Just, could I talk to her? To both of you?" Jennifer saw something in his eyes that made her reconsider, a brokenness that seemed genuine, a humility that contrasted sharply with the entitled attitude she encountered daily in her work. She thought of Emily Clare's tender heart, how her daughter had tossed and turned all night, wondering if the sad man from the store had found help. "We live in Maryvale," Jennifer said finally. "It's not like this neighborhood." "I don't care about the neighborhood, Mrs. Martinez. I care about your daughter's kindness, and I'd like to understand where that comes from." Jennifer made a decision that would change all their lives. 1247 West Campbell Avenue. "We'll be home after 6. As Michael drove away, Jennifer pulled out her phone to call her daughter at her after-school program. Emily Clare's excited squeal when she heard that Mr. Michael wanted to visit them could be heard across the community center. But what neither of them knew was that at that very moment, David Miller was meeting with federal prosecutors in a downtown Phoenix courthouse, weaving an intricate web of lies designed to save himself by destroying his former partner's life completely. The contrast between Ahwatukee's manicured affluence and Maryvale's working-class reality was stark, but as Michael drove through the neighborhood where Jennifer and Emily Clare lived, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years: authenticity. Here, children played soccer in the streets with makeshift goals made from traffic cones. Grandmothers sat on front porches watching the world go by. Music drifted from open windows, and the smell of home-cooked meals filled the air. 1247 West Campbell Avenue was a small single-story house with faded blue paint and a chain-link fence surrounding a tiny yard, where desert marigolds bloomed in defiance of the harsh environment. The grass was patchy but carefully maintained, and wind chimes created gentle music in the evening breeze. Before Michael could even knock, the front door burst open and Emily Clare ran out, her school uniform slightly rumpled from an active day, her face bright with excitement. "Mr. Michael, you came. Mum said you wanted to visit us." "Hello again, Emily Clare," Michael said, kneeling to her level. "Thank you for letting me come see you." Jennifer appeared in the doorway, having changed from her work uniform into jeans and a simple blouse. "Come in, please. Emily Clare has been bouncing off the wall since I called." The interior of the house was small but immaculate. Every surface gleamed with the attention of someone who took pride in their home regardless of its size. The living room was dominated by a well-worn but comfortable couch, covered with a handmade Afghan, and the walls were decorated with Emily Clare's artwork and family photos. Michael's eyes were drawn to a formal photograph on the mantelpiece, a handsome man in a police uniform with his arm around a younger Jennifer, both of them beaming at the camera. "That's my daddy," Emily Clare said, following his gaze. "He was a police officer. He's in heaven now, but Mama says he watches over us. Officer John Martinez," Jennifer explained quietly. "He was killed in the line of duty 4 years ago during a domestic violence call. Emily Clare was only 4. Michael felt a lump form in his throat. Here was a family that had faced real tragedy, real loss, and yet their first instinct had been to help a stranger in distress. "I'm so sorry for your loss," Michael said. "He must have been a remarkable man to raise such an incredible daughter." "He was," Jennifer replied, her voice strong despite the pain that flickered in her eyes. "He always said that we might not have much money, but we could always be rich in kindness." Emily Clare tugged on Michael's sleeve. "Want to see my room? I have all my daddy's police patches on my wall, and I'm saving money to be a doctor, so I can help people like he did." As Emily Clare led him down the short hallway, chattering about her dreams and plans, Michael marveled at her resilience. This child, who had lost her father at such a young age, who lived in a house smaller than his apartment's bathroom, radiated more joy and purpose than anyone in his circle of wealthy acquaintances. Her bedroom was tiny, but organized with military precision. School books were stacked neatly on a small desk, and the walls were covered with her father's police unit patches, honor certificates, and Emily Clare's own academic achievements. A small bulletin board displayed pictures of doctors and medical equipment, clearly marking her aspirations. "I want to help sick people feel better," Emily Clare explained earnestly. "Just like my daddy helped keep people safe. Mama works really hard so I can go to good schools and maybe get a scholarship to college. That's a beautiful dream," Michael said, sitting on her small bed. "And I bet your daddy would be very proud of how smart and kind you are." "Do you think so?" Emily Claire's eyes lit up. "Mama says he sends us angels sometimes when we need help. Maybe you're one of our angels, Mr. Michael." Michael felt his heart crack open. This child thought he was an angel, when the truth was that she had been his salvation in that supermarket, showing him what true generosity looked like. When they returned to the living room, Jennifer had prepared coffee and had pulled out a photo album. "Emily Claire insisted I show you her school pictures," she said with a smile. "She's been on the honor roll every semester." As they sat together on the couch looking through photos of Emily Claire's achievements, Michael felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. There was no pretense here, no need to perform or impress, just a mother and daughter who had built a life of dignity and hope despite overwhelming challenges. "Mrs. Martinez," Michael said finally, "I want to help with Emily Claire's education." Jennifer's expression immediately became guarded. "Mr. Thompson, we appreciate the thought, but we don't need charity." "It's not charity," Michael said quickly. "It's gratitude. Your daughter gave me something yesterday that I can never repay. She reminded me of who I used to be, who I want to be again. Please let me pay for her schooling." "We're doing fine on our own," Jennifer replied firmly, her pride evident. Emily Claire looked between the two adults, sensing the tension but not understanding its source. "Mama, why can't Mr. Michael help me go to school? I helped him when he was sad." Jennifer's resolve wavered as she looked at her daughter's innocent face. She thought of the bills piling up, the sacrifice of working 3 jobs to afford Emily Claire's after-school programs, the dream of sending her daughter to college that seemed so impossibly distant. "If you insist on helping," Jennifer said finally, "then it can't be charity. You'll have to give me a job so I can earn it." Michael's mind raced. His company was under federal investigation. His business partner had fled with their money, and his professional future was completely uncertain. But looking at Jennifer's determined face and Emily Claire's hopeful eyes, he knew exactly what he needed to do. "Deal," he said. "When this legal mess is sorted out, you'll be my first employee in whatever comes next." As Michael prepared to leave, Emily Claire hugged him tightly. "I'm glad you're not sad anymore, Mr. Michael. Everything's going to be okay." Walking to his car under the starlit Phoenix sky, Michael realized that for the first time in years, he actually believed that everything would indeed be okay. But he had no idea that tomorrow would bring news that would test that newfound faith to its absolute limits. The Arizona Republic's morning headline blazed across the front page: "Phoenix real estate mogul under federal investigation. Thompson and Associates accused of bribery, money laundering." Michael's professional headshot, taken during better times, stared back at him from newsstands across the city. The article, written by investigative journalist Rebecca Chen, painted him as the mastermind behind a complex scheme involving city planning officials, county commissioners, and illegal campaign contributions. David Miller was portrayed as a whistleblower who had courageously come forward to expose his partner's corruption. Michael sat in his kitchen, coffee growing cold in his hands, as he read quote after damning quote attributed to his former partner. Michael Thompson was obsessed with cutting corners and maximizing profits. David was quoted as saying, "When I tried to question his methods, he threatened to destroy my career. I finally couldn't stay silent about what was happening." The lies were so expertly crafted that Michael almost believed them himself. David had been the one pushing for the questionable deals, the one who had cultivated relationships with corrupt officials, the one who had insisted that everyone does business this way in Phoenix. But all the paperwork, all the signatures, all the authorization codes, they bore Michael's name. His phone began ringing at 6 a.m. and didn't stop. Clients canceling contracts, vendors demanding immediate payment, reporters seeking comments, Ashley calling to distance herself publicly from their relationship. By noon, Michael had turned off his phone and drawn the blinds, hiding in his apartment like a fugitive. Sandra appeared at his door that afternoon, having used her spare key when he didn't answer her knocks. She carried a box of personal items from their office, her eyes red from crying. "They seized everything, Michael. The computers, the files, the furniture. Federal agents spent 3 hours going through every document. They've frozen all the business accounts and are investigating every deal we've made in the past 5 years. Sandra, you need to find another job," Michael said hollowly. "This isn't going to end well for anyone associated with me." "I've worked for you for 5 years," Sandra replied firmly. "I know what kind of man you are, and I know what kind of man David Miller is. Don't you dare give up now." But even Sandra's loyalty couldn't shield Michael from the reality of his situation. By evening, news vans had gathered outside his building. Social media buzzed with speculation and condemnation. The Phoenix business community, which had embraced him just days ago, now treated him like a pariah. That's when his phone rang with a number he didn't recognize. "Mr. Thompson, this is Sister Helen Carmichael from St. Mary's Academy. I'm calling about Emily Claire Martinez." Michael's heart sank. He'd spent the morning researching the best private schools in Phoenix, preparing to fulfill his promise to help with Emily Claire's education. "Sister Helen, if this is about the news coverage, I'm afraid we've received some concerning calls about your association with our prospective student," Sister Helen interrupted, her voice professionally cold. "Given the serious nature of the allegations against you, we feel it would be inappropriate to accept any financial assistance from Thompson and Associates. Sister, I understand your position, but Emily Claire is an extraordinary child who deserves—" "Mr. Thompson, I'm going to have to ask you not to contact our school again regarding this matter." The line went dead. Michael stared at his phone, devastated. The one thing he'd wanted to do, the one way he'd hoped to honor Emily Claire's kindness, had been ripped away from him. That evening, as Michael sat alone in his darkened apartment, avoiding the media circus outside, he thought about Emily Claire's innocent faith that everything's going to be okay. How could he face her now? How could he explain that his promise to help her was as worthless as his reputation? But what Michael didn't know was that at that very moment in their small house in Maryvale, Emily Claire was kneeling beside her bed, looking up at her father's photograph and praying with all the faith her 8-year-old heart could muster. "Daddy, Mr. Michael is in trouble again, and I think he needs our help. Can you send him some angels like you sent him to us?" Sometimes, the prayers of children carry more power than all the corruption and lies that adults can devise. And sometimes the angels they pray for come in the most unexpected forms. 3 days after the news broke, Michael had become a prisoner in his own home. The media circus outside his building had only intensified, with reporters shouting questions every time he appeared near a window. His lawyer, expensive and pessimistic, had advised him to prepare for the worst. "The evidence David's provided is damning," Attorney James Walsh had explained during their morning phone call. "Bank records, email trails, recorded conversations. Even if you're innocent, proving it will be nearly impossible. I'm recommending we explore a plea agreement." Michael had hung up in disgust. He knew he wasn't innocent of poor judgment, of willful blindness, of allowing his ego and lifestyle to cloud his moral compass. But he wasn't guilty of the crimes David had orchestrated while using his name and reputation as cover. That afternoon, as Phoenix's infamous heat reached 115 degrees, Michael heard an unexpected knock at his door. Peering through the peephole, he saw Jennifer Martinez and Emily Claire standing in the hallway, both looking determined despite the crowd of reporters they'd somehow navigated. Michael opened the door quickly, ushering them inside before the media could spot them. "Mrs. Martinez, Emily Claire, what are you doing here? It's not safe for you to be seen with me right now." "We took 3 different buses to get here," Jennifer said simply. "Emily Claire insisted we come." Emily Claire looked up at Michael with those same compassionate brown eyes that had seen through his facade in the supermarket. But now, instead of pity, they held something even more powerful, unwavering faith. "Mr. Michael, are you really a bad person like they're saying on TV?" Michael knelt to her level, his heart breaking. "Emily Claire, I've made some terrible mistakes. I trusted the wrong person, and I let my pride make me blind to things I should have seen." "But are you a bad person?" she insisted. Michael thought about the question, really thought about it. Was he bad, or was he just someone who'd lost his way? "I don't think I'm bad, Emily Claire, but I haven't been as good as I could be." Emily Claire nodded solemnly, as if this answer made perfect sense to her 8-year-old logic. "That's what I told Mama. I said Mr. Michael was kind to me when his heart was broken, so he must have a good heart inside." Jennifer stepped forward, her voice quiet but firm. "We've been watching the news, Mr. Thompson, and we've been talking to our neighbors, some of whom have worked for your company over the years. They all say the same thing, that you always treated workers with respect, always paid fair wages, never made anyone feel small." "Mrs. Martinez, you don't understand the full picture." "I understand enough," Jennifer interrupted. "I understand that my daughter has a gift for seeing people's true hearts. She insisted we come here because she said you needed to know that some people still believe in you." Emily Claire reached into her small backpack and pulled out a piece of construction paper covered with crayon drawings. It showed two stick figures, one tall, one small, standing together under a bright yellow sun. At the bottom, in careful 8-year-old handwriting, were the words, "For Mr. Michael, angels help each other." "I made this for you," Emily Clare said, handing him the drawing, "because you helped me remember that there are good people in the world, and now I want to help you remember too." Michael felt tears threatening to spill as he held the precious artwork. Here was a child who had every reason to be cynical about the world. She'd lost her father, lived in poverty, watched her mother struggle every day to make ends meet, yet she still believed in goodness, still believed in people, still believed in hope. "Emily Clare, I promised to help you go to school, but the school won't take money from me now." "I don't care about that school," Emily Clare said with surprising firmness. "I care about you being sad. Schools are just buildings, Mr. Michael. The important thing is what's in here." She tapped her chest. "And you have good things in your heart." Jennifer sat down beside Michael on his expensive couch, her presence somehow making the sterile apartment feel warmer. "My husband used to say that a person's character isn't measured by their worst moment, but by what they do after it." "I don't know what to do after this," Michael admitted. "Everything I built, everything I thought I was, it's all gone." "Maybe it needed to go," Jennifer said gently. "Maybe you needed to lose the things that weren't real, so you could build something that is." Emily Clare climbed up onto the couch between them, her small presence filling the space with light. "You know what, Mr. Michael? I think this is like when I lost my first tooth. It hurt when it fell out, but Mama said that's how you make room for the bigger, stronger teeth to grow in." Michael looked at this remarkable child, this angel who had appeared in his life twice now, at moments when he most needed saving, and felt something shift in his chest. The crushing weight of despair began to lift, replaced by something he hadn't felt in years, the desire to become worthy of such faith. "Emily Clare, your mama is right. You do have a gift for seeing people's hearts." Michael stood up, his voice growing stronger. "And if you believe there's still good in mine, then I'm going to prove you're right." As the Martinez family prepared to leave, Emily Clare hugged Michael tightly. "Don't forget, Mr. Michael, angels help each other, and sometimes being an angel just means not giving up." After they left, Michael stood in his apartment holding Emily Clare's drawing, and for the first time in days, he felt hope. Tomorrow, he would stop hiding. Tomorrow, he would start fighting back. Tomorrow, he would begin the long journey of proving that an 8-year-old girl's faith in him was not misplaced. But what Michael didn't know was that David Miller had just made a crucial mistake, one that would provide the key to unraveling his web of lies and revealing the truth that would set Michael free. Michael's first stop the next morning was the FBI field office in downtown Phoenix. He walked through the crowd of reporters without comment, his jaw set with determination and Emily Clare's drawing tucked inside his jacket pocket like a talisman. Agent Rodriguez looked surprised when Michael appeared in the waiting room without his lawyer. "Mr. Thompson, I have to advise you that anything you say can be used against you in court." "I'm not here to confess, Agent Rodriguez. I'm here to cooperate, completely. I want to show you everything David Miller did while using my name, and I want to help you understand how he manipulated me into signing documents I should have read more carefully." Over the next 4 hours, Michael walked the agents through every questionable deal David had proposed, every meeting where David had insisted Michael's signature was needed just as a formality, every time David had assured him that their methods were industry standard. Michael held nothing back, admitting his own negligence while painting a clear picture of David's manipulation. "Mr. Miller claimed you threatened his career when he questioned your methods," Agent Rodriguez said, reading from David's statement. "Agent Rodriguez, David Miller made more money from our partnership than I did. His salary alone was $200,000 a year, plus bonuses. Why would he risk that by challenging me unless he was the one orchestrating these schemes?" Michael pulled out his phone. "I have 5 years of text messages between us. Feel free to analyze them. You'll see that every questionable deal originated with David, not me." Agent Chen, Rodriguez's partner, made notes as Michael continued. "David controlled our relationships with city officials. He arranged all meetings with county commissioners. I thought he was just being efficient, handling the bureaucratic side so I could focus on development and client relations. You're claiming you were completely unaware of the bribery scheme." "I'm claiming I was willfully ignorant," Michael corrected. "I suspected something wasn't quite right, but I didn't want to ask too many questions because business was good and I was making money. That makes me guilty of poor judgment and moral cowardice, but not criminal conspiracy." By the end of the session, Michael could see doubt creeping into the agent's expressions. David's story had painted Michael as a sophisticated criminal mastermind, but the man sitting before them seemed more like a naive entrepreneur who'd been expertly manipulated by someone far more cunning. "We'll need you to submit to a polygraph test," Agent Rodriguez said finally. "When and where?" Michael replied without hesitation. That afternoon, Michael drove to Maryvale. He found Jennifer at one of her cleaning jobs in Ahwatukee and waited until she finished her shift. "Mrs. Martinez, I need to ask you something," he said as she loaded her supplies into her car. "If I offered you a job right now, not contingent on clearing my name, not dependent on rebuilding my company, would you take it?" Jennifer studied his face carefully. "What kind of job? Helping me start over, building something completely different, something clean." Michael felt the weight of Emily Claire's faith driving his words. "I want to create a company that develops affordable housing for working families, places where people like you could actually afford to live with dignity. Mr. Thompson, you're under federal investigation. Starting a business right now seems... I have about $50,000 in personal savings that the FBI hasn't frozen," Michael interrupted. "It's not much, but it's untainted money. My own earnings from before David's schemes began. I can use that to start a consulting business, help families navigate the home buying process, maybe develop some small affordable housing projects." Jennifer was quiet for a long moment. "Why are you really doing this?" Michael thought of Emily Claire's drawing, of her unwavering belief that good hearts were worth fighting for. "Because your daughter asked me not to give up, and because I want to become the man she thinks I am." "I'll work with you on one condition," Jennifer said finally. "Emily Claire's education is not part of this deal. You don't owe us anything for helping you. This has to be a real business arrangement where I earn my salary." "Agreed. But Mrs. Martinez," Michael smiled for the first time in days, "I think Emily Claire's education is going to take care of itself. I have a feeling that child is destined for great things, with or without expensive schools." That evening, Michael sat in his apartment, drafting a business plan for Phoenix Hope Development, a company dedicated to creating affordable housing with dignity. Outside his window, the media circus continued, but inside, he felt a peace he hadn't experienced in years. His phone rang at 9 p.m. The caller ID showed a number from the FBI field office. "Mr. Thompson, this is Agent Rodriguez. We've discovered some interesting discrepancies in Mr. Miller's story. We'd like you to come in tomorrow morning. And, Mr. Thompson, you might want to bring that lawyer after all." Michael hung up the phone with his heart racing. Emily Claire had been right. Angels really did help each other. And sometimes he was learning. The truth was the most powerful angel of all. But the real breakthrough would come from an unexpected source. David Miller's own arrogance had led him to keep detailed records of his schemes, records that would soon surface in the most dramatic way possible. David Miller's downfall began with his own greed and paranoia. FBI forensic accountants, following the money trail Michael had provided, discovered that David had been skimming funds, not only from their partnership, but from every deal he'd orchestrated over the past 3 years. More damaging still, they found encrypted files on his personal computer, insurance policies he'd kept in case his schemes were ever discovered. The files contained recorded conversations with city officials, detailed logs of bribes paid, and most crucially, recordings of David coaching Michael on what to say during official meetings, recordings that made it clear Michael had no idea about the illegal activities happening behind the scenes. Agent Rodriguez called Michael at 6 a.m. "Mr. Thompson, we need you downtown immediately. Bring that lawyer. You're going to want legal representation, but not for the reasons you think." Michael arrived at the federal building to find Agent Chen waiting with a stack of documents and a digital recorder. "Mr. Miller kept extensive records," Agent Chen explained. "Apparently he was planning to use them as leverage if anyone ever tried to expose him. Unfortunately for him, they prove your innocence more clearly than anything you could have said." The first recording was devastating in its clarity. David's voice, captured by his own security system, could be heard talking to Michael about a city planning meeting. "Just stick to the script, Michael. Tell them we support the environmental impact study. Don't mention the timeline pressure. I've already handled the delays through other channels." Michael's voice on the recording was confused. "What other channels, David? If there are issues with the environmental review, trust me, partner, this is how business gets done in Phoenix. You focus on the development plans, I'll handle the bureaucratic bullshit." There were dozens of similar recordings, each one painting a clearer picture of Michael as an unwitting frontman for David's corruption schemes. "Mr. Thompson," Agent Rodriguez said after they'd played several recordings, "it's clear that you were manipulated and deceived by your partner. While we can't excuse your failure to ask harder questions, the evidence suggests you had no criminal intent." Michael's lawyer, James Walsh, looked stunned. "So, the charges against my client will likely be dropped within the week," Agent Chen confirmed. "We're more interested in Mr. Miller now, and in the city officials who accepted his bribes." That afternoon, Michael drove straight to Emily Claire's school to pick her up for what had become their weekly ice cream tradition. She was waiting outside the building with her small backpack and the brightest smile he'd ever seen. "Mr. Michael, Mrs. Patterson says I got the highest score in the whole 3rd grade on the math test." "That's incredible, sweetheart." Michael lifted her up in a huge hug. "I'm so proud of you." As they walked toward his car, Emily Claire slipped her small hand into his. "Mr. Michael, you look different today. Your eyes look happy again." "I am happy, Emily Claire. It looks like everything is going to work out after all." "I told you so," she said matter-of-factly. "Angels don't give up, remember?" At the ice cream shop, Michael watched Emily Claire carefully choose between 17 flavors, her face serious with concentration. When she finally decided on strawberry with rainbow sprinkles, she looked up at him with those wise brown eyes. "Mr. Michael, are you going to be okay now? Really okay?" Michael thought about the question. His name would be cleared, but his old company was gone. His reputation in Phoenix real estate circles might never recover. Ashley and most of his former social circle had already written him off. His expensive lifestyle was definitely over. But sitting across from this remarkable child who had saved him twice now, once from financial embarrassment and once from complete despair, Michael realized he was more than okay. He was free. "Emily Claire, I'm going to be better than okay. I'm going to be happy." "Good," she said, taking a large bite of ice cream, "because tomorrow I want you to meet my friend Carlos. His mama cleans offices downtown, and she says he's really smart, but his family can't afford tutoring. I think you'd like him." Michael laughed, understanding that Emily Claire was already recruiting him for his next mission of helping worthy kids get the education they deserved. "I'd love to meet Carlos," he said. "And Emily Claire?" "I think your daddy would be very proud of the angel you've become." Emily Claire beamed at him. "I think he'd be proud of you too, Mr. Michael. You didn't give up." That night, Michael called Jennifer to share the good news. As he described the FBI's findings and the likelihood that charges would be dropped, he could hear the relief in her voice. "Michael, I never doubted your innocence for a second," she said. "Emily Claire has a gift for seeing people's true character, and she knew from the beginning that you were good." "Mrs. Martinez, Jennifer, I owe your daughter more than I can ever repay." "You don't owe us anything," Jennifer replied firmly. "But if you want to keep being part of our family's life, you're welcome to stay." For the first time in years, Michael felt like he was exactly where he belonged. But the greatest surprise was yet to come, a call that would arrive the next morning and change the trajectory of Emily Claire's future forever. The call came at 7 a.m. from Sister Helen Carmichael at St. Mary's Academy. "Mr. Thompson, I owe you an apology," the principal said without preamble. "We've been following the news about your case, and it's clear we made a hasty judgment based on incomplete information." Michael, still groggy from sleep, tried to process what he was hearing. "Sister Helen, I appreciate the call, but please let me finish. Not only do we want to reconsider Emily Claire Martinez for enrollment, but we'd like to offer her a full academic scholarship. Our review committee was so impressed with her entrance examination scores and her character reference letters that we feel she represents exactly the type of student our school was founded to serve." "Sister, that's wonderful news, but I should mention that my financial situation has changed significantly." "Mr. Thompson, this scholarship has nothing to do with any financial contribution from you. Emily Claire earned this on her own merit. We simply wanted you to know that your faith in her was well placed." Michael hung up the phone with tears in his eyes. Emily Claire had done it herself. Her intelligence, her character, her determination had opened the doors that his money never could have. An hour later, he was knocking on the door at 1247 West Campbell Avenue, practically bouncing with excitement. Jennifer answered in her work uniform, about to leave for her morning cleaning job. "Michael, what are you doing here so early?" "Is Emily Claire awake? I have news that can't wait." Emily Claire appeared behind her mother in her school clothes, her hair in neat braids. "Mr. Michael, you look like you're going to explode with happiness." Emily Claire, How would you feel about going to St. Mary's Academy? The little girl's eyes widened. The fancy school you told us about? But we can't afford. You earned a full scholarship, sweetheart. They called this morning. You're going to St. Mary's Academy next year. Completely free because you're brilliant and wonderful and they want you there. Emily Claire stared at him for a moment, then launched herself into his arms with a squeal of pure joy. Jennifer covered her mouth with her hands, tears streaming down her face. I did it, Mama, I really did it. Emily Claire was practically vibrating with excitement. Wait until I tell Daddy. She ran to her room and returned with the framed photo of her father, holding it up to show Michael. Daddy, did you hear? I'm going to the fancy school, and I'm going to study really hard and become a doctor just like I promised. Michael knelt beside her, looking at the photograph of Officer John Martinez, the man whose strength and values had shaped this incredible child. Your daddy would be so proud, Emily Claire. And so am I. Jennifer pulled Michael aside while Emily Claire danced around the living room with her father's photo. Michael, are you sure this scholarship isn't connected to you somehow? Jennifer, I swear to you, this is all Emily Claire. Her test scores, her character, her essays. She earned this entirely on her own merit. Michael paused. Although I have to admit, having me as a reference probably didn't hurt. Sister Helen mentioned that the committee was impressed by the letter I wrote about Emily Claire's character. You wrote her a letter of recommendation? 3 pages about how an 8-year-old girl taught a grown man what real wealth looks like. How she showed me that kindness is the only currency that really matters. Michael smiled. I may have gotten a little carried away describing her as the most remarkable person I've ever met. Jennifer hugged him tightly. Thank you, Michael, for everything. That afternoon, Michael officially launched Phoenix Hope Development from a small office space in downtown Phoenix. Jennifer, wearing a professional dress instead of her cleaning uniform, sat at her new desk as office manager and community outreach coordinator. Their first project was ambitious but simple, converting a small apartment complex in Maryvale into affordable housing for working families. Michael had learned enough from his partnership with David to navigate the city planning process ethically, and his reputation for treating workers fairly had survived his legal troubles. Our first tenant application, Jennifer announced, handing Michael a folder. The Gonzalez family, Maria works 2 jobs, her husband Carlos is a mechanic, and they have 3 kids. They've been looking for affordable housing for 2 years. Michael reviewed the application with careful attention. This family represented everything he wanted Phoenix Hope Development to stand for: hard-working people who deserved safe, affordable housing with dignity. Approved, he said without hesitation. Let's give them a home. That evening, as Michael worked late in his new office, Emily Claire appeared in the doorway with Jennifer. She was wearing her St. Mary's Academy uniform for the first time, a crisp white blouse and navy skirt that made her look older and somehow more serious. How do I look, Mr. Michael? Like the smartest, most beautiful future doctor in all of Phoenix, Michael replied. Are you ready for your first day tomorrow? Emily Claire nodded solemnly, then broke into her brilliant smile. I'm scared, but I'm excited. And Mr. Michael, I want you to know that even though I'm going to a fancy school now, I'll never forget where I came from or the lesson you taught me. What lesson is that, sweetheart? That angels help each other, Emily Claire said simply, and that sometimes the best angels are the ones who need help themselves. Michael looked at this remarkable child who had transformed his life so completely and realized that Emily Claire Martinez was absolutely right. The best angels were indeed the ones who understood what it meant to need saving, because they never forgot to extend their hands to others who were drowning. Tomorrow would bring new challenges as Emily Claire started at St. Mary's Academy, but tonight, surrounded by the family that had chosen him as much as he had chosen them, Michael Thompson finally understood what true success looked like. 6 months into Emily Claire's tenure at St. Mary's Academy, the transition had been everything Michael had hoped for and more challenging than anyone had anticipated. The academic rigor was exactly what Emily Claire's brilliant mind needed, but the social dynamics proved more complex. The other kids keep asking why I don't have a daddy to pick me up from school, Emily Claire confided to Michael during one of their weekly ice cream dates. And when I tell them my daddy's in heaven, they get all weird and quiet. Michael felt his heart clench. What do you tell them about that? I tell them that my daddy is a hero who died protecting people, and that he sent me you and Mama as my earth angels. Emily Claire licked her strawberry cone thoughtfully. Most of them think that's pretty cool, but there's this one girl, Madison, who says her daddy owns 3 car dealerships and that I don't belong at St. Mary's because my mama cleans houses. Michael's jaw tightened. What did you say to that? I told her that my mama makes things beautiful for other people, and that's more important than selling cars. Emily Claire's voice was matter-of-fact, but Michael could see the hurt in her eyes. Sister Helen heard about it and made Madison apologize, but I could tell she didn't mean it. Emily Claire, do you want to stay at St. Mary's? Because if you're not happy there... Mr. Michael, Emily Claire interrupted with surprising firmness. I love learning there. The teachers are amazing and I'm already doing algebra with the 5th graders. I'm not going to let one mean girl chase me away from my dreams. Michael marveled at this 8-year-old's resilience. She had her father's courage and her mother's determination, combined with a wisdom that seemed to come from somewhere beyond her years. You know what, sweetheart? I think Madison needs to learn what your mama's work really means. How would you feel about giving a presentation to your class about different kinds of jobs and why they're all important? Emily Claire's eyes lit up. Could Mama come talk to my class? She could tell them about how she helps families have clean, safe homes to live in. The presentation, held 2 weeks later, was a revelation. Jennifer Martinez stood before 20 privileged 3rd graders in their pristine classroom and spoke with quiet dignity about the nobility of service work. My job isn't just about cleaning, Jennifer explained to the attentive children. When I clean someone's home, I'm creating a peaceful space where families can feel safe and happy. When a busy parent comes home after a long day, they don't have to worry about housework. They can focus on spending time with their children. She showed photos of some of the families she worked for. The elderly Mrs. Chen, whose arthritis made cleaning impossible. The single father who worked 2 jobs and needed help maintaining a stable home for his kids. The young couple expecting their first baby, who wanted everything perfect for their new arrival. Every job that helps other people is important, Jennifer continued. Doctors help people feel better. Teachers help people learn. Police officers keep people safe. And cleaning workers help people have homes they can be proud of. Madison raised her hand tentatively. Mrs. Martinez, do you like your job? I love my job, Jennifer replied honestly. I love knowing that I make a difference in people's lives every day. And I love that my work gives me flexible hours, so I can be there for Emily Claire when she needs me. After Jennifer left, Sister Helen led a discussion about different types of work and their value to society. Madison approached Emily Claire at recess with a new understanding in her eyes. Emily Claire, I'm sorry I was mean about your mom. My dad's car dealerships are successful, but your mom actually helps people. That's really cool. My mama is the best, Emily Claire agreed simply. And you know what? Your daddy probably helps people too. Families need cars to get to work and school and doctor appointments. From that day forward, Emily Claire's social standing at St. Mary's changed completely. Her classmates began to see her not as the scholarship kid from the wrong side of town, but as someone with a unique perspective and genuine wisdom about what really mattered in life. Meanwhile, Phoenix Hope Development was gaining momentum. Michael had successfully renovated the Maryvale apartment complex, creating 12 units of affordable housing that were fully occupied within a month. Word spread through Phoenix's working-class communities about the developer who treated tenants with respect and charged fair rents. We have 17 families on our waiting list, Jennifer reported during their weekly business meeting, and I've had 3 other property owners approach us about similar renovation projects. Michael reviewed the numbers with satisfaction. They weren't getting rich, but they were building something meaningful and something sustainable. There's another piece of good news, Jennifer continued. The Phoenix Housing Authority wants to meet with us about partnering on a larger project. They're impressed with our tenant satisfaction scores and our community-focused approach. That evening, as Michael reviewed plans for their next development project, his phone rang. The caller ID showed Emily Claire's number. Mr. Michael, guess what happened today? Tell me, sweetheart. I got selected for the Young Scholars program. Sister Helen says only 3 kids from each grade get chosen, and they get to do special science projects with high school students. Michael felt his heart swell with pride. Emily Claire, that's incredible. What kind of science projects? We get to work in a real laboratory at Phoenix Children's Hospital. I'm going to learn about helping sick kids, just like I want to do when I become a doctor. As Emily Claire chatted excitedly about her new opportunity, Michael realized that the little girl who had offered him $15 in a supermarket was already well on her way to becoming the healer she dreamed of being. And more importantly, she was doing it while staying true to the values her parents had instilled in her. Emily Claire, Michael said when she finally paused for breath, your daddy would be so incredibly proud of you. I know, she replied with quiet confidence. I can feel him smiling whenever I work really hard or help someone. And Mr. Michael, I think he's proud of you too. You're becoming exactly the person I knew you could be." As Michael hung up the phone, he reflected on how completely his life had changed since that humiliating day in the supermarket. He was no longer wealthy in the traditional sense, but he had something far more valuable, a purpose that aligned with his values, work that made a difference, and a family that had chosen to love him despite his flaws. But the greatest test of Emily Clare's character, and of the bond between all three of them, was still to come. Emily Clare was halfway through her 4th grade year at St. Mary's Academy when the letter arrived. Michael was at the Phoenix Hope Development Office, reviewing architectural plans for their 3rd affordable housing project, when Jennifer burst through the door with an expression of shock and disbelief. "Michael, you need to see this." Her hands were shaking as she handed him an official envelope. It came to the house today. The letterhead read, "Harvard Medical School Early Identification Program." Michael's eyes widened as he read, "Dear Ms. Martinez, your daughter Emily Clare, has been selected as one of 12 students nationwide to participate in our experimental early identification program for academically gifted children showing exceptional promise in medical sciences. This program provides mentorship, specialized curriculum, and conditional acceptance to Harvard Medical School upon completion of undergraduate studies." Michael looked up at Jennifer, whose tears were flowing freely. "Jennifer, do you understand what this means?" "It means Emily Clare's dreams are coming true," Jennifer whispered. "But Michael, look at the rest of the letter." Michael continued reading, his excitement gradually turning to concern. The program required Emily Clare to attend a specialized preparatory academy in Boston for her remaining elementary and middle school years. Housing, tuition, and expenses would be fully covered, but she would only be able to return home for holidays and summer breaks. "They want to take her away," Jennifer said, voicing the fear that was growing in Michael's chest. "She's only 9 years old." That evening, the three of them sat around Jennifer's small kitchen table with the Harvard letter spread between them. Emily Clare had read it 3 times, her young face serious with the weight of the decision before her. "It's what I've always wanted," she said quietly. "To be a doctor, to help sick people. This program could make that happen for sure." "But sweetheart," Michael said gently, "you'd have to live in Boston, far away from your mama and me. You'd miss your friends here, miss seeing us every day." Emily Clare looked up at the photograph of her father that sat on the kitchen counter. "Daddy, what should I do?" The silence stretched for several minutes before Emily Clare spoke again. "Mr. Michael, remember when you first met me in the supermarket? What did I tell you was the most important thing?" Michael thought back to that life-changing moment. "You said your mama taught you to help people when they're in trouble. And if I go to this special school, I'll learn how to help more people, right? I'll become a better doctor." Michael felt his heart breaking. Even at 9 years old, Emily Clare was putting her mission to help others above her own comfort and security. "Emily Clare," Jennifer said, her voice thick with emotion, "this is your choice, Mika. But whatever you decide, your daddy and I will be proud of you. And I'll support whatever you choose too," Michael added, though the thought of losing this remarkable child felt like losing a piece of his soul. Emily Clare stood up and walked to her father's photograph, touching the glass gently. "Daddy, I think I know what you'd want me to do. You always said that we have to be brave enough to help people, even when it's hard." She turned back to Michael and Jennifer, her young face set with determination that reminded Michael powerfully of her father's police photo. "I want to go to Boston. I want to learn everything I can so I can come back to Phoenix and help kids here," but she paused, looking suddenly very young again. "I want to know that my family will still be here when I come home." "Always," Jennifer promised, pulling her daughter into a fierce hug. "You will always have a home here, no matter where your dreams take you." Michael knelt beside Emily Clare's chair. "And you'll always be my angel, sweetheart. Distance can't change that." Emily Clare looked at him with those wise brown eyes that had seen through his brokenness and chosen to believe in his goodness. "Mr. Michael, will you promise me something? Anything. Promise me you'll keep helping families here in Phoenix. Promise me you'll keep being the good person I know you are, even when I'm not here to remind you." Michael felt tears threatening to spill. "I promise, Emily Clare, and I promise something else. When you come back to Phoenix as Dr. Emily Clare Martinez, Phoenix Hope Development will help you build the best children's medical clinic this city has ever seen." Emily Clare's face lit up with that brilliant smile that had captured his heart from the first moment he'd seen it. "Really? We'll work together to help sick kids? Really?" It'll be our dream project. That night, after Emily Claire had gone to bed clutching her father's photo and her acceptance letter, Michael and Jennifer sat on her small front porch under the desert stars. "Are we doing the right thing?" Jennifer asked. "Letting her go so far away?" Michael thought about the question carefully. "Jennifer, I think Emily Claire is destined for greatness, and great people sometimes have to make sacrifices to fulfill their purpose. Our job isn't to hold her back. It's to make sure she knows she's loved no matter where life takes her." "She's changed both our lives," Jennifer said softly. "She saved both our lives," Michael corrected. "And now we have to be strong enough to let her save other lives too." 6 weeks later, Michael and Jennifer stood in Sky Harbor Airport, watching Emily Claire board a plane to Boston. She was dressed in her travel clothes, carrying a small suitcase and her father's photo in a special frame Michael had given her. "Take care of each other while I'm gone," she instructed them seriously. "And don't forget, angels help each other, even when they're far apart." As her plane taxied toward takeoff, Michael realized that Emily Claire Martinez was no longer just the little girl who had offered him $15 in a supermarket. She was becoming exactly what she'd always been destined to be: a healer, a helper, a beacon of hope in a world that desperately needed more angels. But neither Michael nor Jennifer could have predicted that Emily Claire's greatest test, and her most important lesson about the true meaning of helping others, was still waiting for her in Boston. Emily Claire had been in Boston for 8 months when the call came that would test everything she'd learned about helping others. She was thriving at the Whitman Academy for Advanced Studies, her academic performance exceeding even Harvard's high expectations. But late one November evening, as the first snow of winter dusted the campus, her dormitory supervisor knocked on her door. "Emily Claire, you have an urgent call from Phoenix." Michael's voice was strained when she picked up the phone. "Emily Claire, sweetheart, your mama is in the hospital. She had an accident at work. She fell down some stairs while cleaning an office building." Emily Claire felt the world tilt beneath her feet. "Is she okay? How bad is it?" "She broke her leg in 2 places and has a concussion. The doctors say she'll recover, but she'll be in the hospital for at least a week, and then she'll need several months of physical therapy before she can work again." "I'm coming home," Emily Claire said immediately. "No, sweetheart. Your mama made me promise to tell you to stay in school. She says this is exactly why she works so hard, so you can focus on your education without worrying about her." But Emily Claire had inherited more than her father's courage and her mother's determination. She'd also inherited their stubborn streak when it came to protecting the people they loved. "Mr. Michael, my mama has taken care of me my whole life. Now it's my turn to take care of her. I'm coming home." The conversation that followed was the most difficult of Emily Claire's young life. Her professors, her Harvard mentors, and even Dr. Patricia Williams, the renowned pediatric surgeon who had become her personal mentor, all tried to convince her to stay. "Emily Claire," Dr. Williams explained during an emergency video conference, "I understand your devotion to your mother, but dropping out of this program even temporarily could jeopardize your entire future in medicine. Harvard doesn't typically readmit students who leave mid-semester." "Dr. Williams, my mama taught me that education is important, but family is everything. She would never abandon me if I needed her, and I won't abandon her." "But think about all the future patients you could help if you complete your training here. Thousands of children whose lives could be saved by your skills as a doctor." Emily Claire was quiet for a long moment, wrestling with the most difficult decision of her young life. Finally, she looked directly into the camera with those same wise brown eyes that had seen through Michael's brokenness in a supermarket 5 years earlier. "Dr. Williams, my mama once told me that we can be poor in money, but never poor in heart. I'd rather be a person who puts family first than a doctor who doesn't understand what really matters." The silence on the video call stretched for several seconds before Dr. Williams spoke again, her voice softer now. "Emily Claire, what if I told you there might be another way?" "What do you mean?" "What if Harvard Medical School set up an independent study program for you in Phoenix? You could continue your advanced coursework through remote learning while taking care of your mother. It would be unprecedented, but your academic record is so exceptional that I think we could make a case for it." Emily Claire felt hope fluttering in her chest. Would that really be possible? "Let me make some calls, but Emily Claire, whether we can arrange this or not, I want you to know that your choice to put family first tells me more about the kind of doctor you'll become than any test score ever could." 24 hours later, Emily Claire was on a plane back to Phoenix, carrying with her a tablet loaded with advanced medical coursework and a letter from Harvard Medical School officially recognizing her as the youngest student ever admitted to their distance learning program. Michael and Jennifer were waiting for her at Sky Harbor Airport, Jennifer in a wheelchair with her leg in a cast, her face pale but beaming with joy at seeing her daughter. "Mija, I told you to stay in school," Jennifer scolded, but her voice was full of love. "Mama, school is just a place. Home is where my family is." Emily Claire hugged her mother carefully, mindful of her injuries. "Besides, Dr. Williams says I can learn just as much taking care of you as I could sitting in a classroom." Over the following months, Emily Claire proved Dr. Williams right. She threw herself into her mother's care with the same intensity she'd always applied to her studies. She learned to change dressings, monitor vital signs, and coordinate with physical therapists. She researched her mother's medications, understood her treatment plan, and became an advocate for her care. More importantly, she experienced firsthand what it meant to be a caregiver. The physical exhaustion, the emotional strain, the small victories, and frustrating setbacks that came with helping someone heal. "You know what I've learned, Mr. Michael?" Emily Claire said one evening, as they sat in the hospital room where Jennifer was completing her final week of treatment. "Being smart isn't enough to be a good doctor. You have to understand what it feels like to be scared and hurt and dependent on other people." Michael watched this remarkable 10-year-old speak with the wisdom of someone far beyond her years. "And what else have you learned? That helping people isn't just about having the right education or the best training, it's about loving them enough to sacrifice for them." Emily Claire looked at her mother, who was sleeping peacefully for the first time in weeks. "Mama taught me that when she worked 3 jobs to pay for my school. You taught me that when you gave up your old life to build something better. And now I'm learning it by taking care of her." "Are you sorry you left Boston?" Michael asked. Emily Claire considered the question seriously. "Mr. Michael, I learned more about being a healer in these 6 months than I ever could have learned in a classroom. Dr. Williams was right. This experience is going to make me a better doctor than anything Harvard could have taught me. And when your mama is better, will you go back to Boston?" Emily Claire smiled, the same radiant expression that had captured his heart in a supermarket all those years ago. "Dr. Williams has offered me something even better, a dual program where I spend half the year in Boston learning advanced medicine and half the year in Phoenix working with Dr. Rodriguez at Phoenix Children's Hospital. I get to become the best doctor I can be, and I get to stay close to my family." Michael felt tears threatening to spill. "Emily Claire, do you realize what an incredible young woman you've become?" "I'm becoming who my daddy would want me to be," she said simply. "Someone who helps people, who puts family first, and who never forgets that the most important things in life can't be bought or earned. They can only be given from the heart." As Michael drove home that night through the streets of Phoenix, he reflected on the journey that had brought them all to this moment. A humiliating experience in a supermarket had led to meeting an angel in disguise. That angel had taught him about true generosity, real wealth, and the power of unconditional love. Now that same angel was growing into someone who would heal not just bodies, but hearts and souls. And Michael knew that wherever Emily Claire's path led her, she would carry with her the lessons she'd learned in that small house in Maryvale about what it really meant to be rich. But the greatest surprise was still to come, a revelation that would bring their story full circle in the most beautiful way possible. 5 years later, Dr. Emily Claire Martinez stood in the lobby of the newest building in downtown Phoenix, the $15 Community Medical Center. At 15 years old, she had just become the youngest person ever to complete Harvard Medical School's accelerated program, and she was about to realize the dream she'd carried since childhood. The medical center was a marvel of modern architecture and compassionate design. The walls were painted in warm, welcoming colors, and natural light flooded through skylights designed to make even the sickest children feel hopeful. But the most remarkable feature was the philosophy behind every detail. No family would ever be turned away for inability to pay, and every patient would be treated with the dignity and respect that Emily Claire had learned from her parents. Michael, now 42 and sporting the first touches of gray in his hair, stood beside Jennifer as they watched Emily Claire address the crowd gathered for the center's dedication ceremony. Phoenix Hope Development had grown into one of the city's most respected construction companies, specializing in affordable housing and community facilities. This medical center was their masterpiece, a collaboration between Emily Claire's vision and Michael's commitment to serving working families. 5 years ago, Emily Claire began, her voice carrying the confidence of someone who had never forgotten her humble origins. "I was a little girl who wanted to become a doctor to help people. I had no idea how that dream would unfold, or how many angels would appear along the way to make it possible." She gestured toward the crowd, which included hundreds of families from across Phoenix, many of whom lived in Phoenix Hope Development housing and would receive free care at the medical center. "This center exists because of a lesson I learned when I was 8 years old in a Kroger supermarket. I learned that sometimes the smallest acts of kindness can change everything. Sometimes $15 offered from the heart can be worth more than $15 million spent without love." In the audience, Michael felt Jennifer squeeze his hand. They'd both heard this story before, but hearing Emily Claire tell it to the world never failed to move them to tears. "My mama taught me that we can be poor in money but never poor in heart," Emily Claire continued. "My daddy, who watches over us from heaven, taught me that real heroes are the ones who help others, even when it's dangerous or difficult. And a man named Michael Thompson taught me that angels help each other, and that it's never too late to become the person you're meant to be." Michael wiped away tears as Emily Claire's eyes found his in the crowd. "Mr. Michael," she said, departing from her prepared speech, "you once promised me that when I became a doctor, we'd work together to build the best children's medical clinic Phoenix had ever seen. Well, here we are." The crowd erupted in applause as Emily Claire gestured toward the state-of-the-art facility behind her. The $15 Community Medical Center would serve over 10,000 children annually, providing everything from routine checkups to complex surgical procedures. A partnership with Phoenix Children's Hospital ensured that the most advanced treatments would be available, while a revolutionary payment program guaranteed that no family would go into debt for their child's health care. After the ceremony, Michael found Emily Claire in her new office, a space she'd insisted be decorated not with expensive art, but with drawings from her young patients and photos of her family. The picture of her father in his police uniform still held a place of honor on her desk. "Dr. Martinez," Michael said formally, then broke into a grin. "I still can't believe you're really a doctor now." "Mr. Michael, I've been practicing medicine for 2 years," Emily Claire laughed. "When are you going to stop being surprised by it?" "Probably never," Michael admitted. "Emily Claire, I need to ask you something. Are you happy? Really, truly happy with how everything turned out?" Emily Claire considered the question with the same thoughtfulness she'd shown as a child. At 15, she was poised and confident, but her eyes still held the same warmth and wisdom that had captured Michael's heart in a supermarket line. "Mr. Michael, remember what you asked me that day in the ice cream shop when I was 8? You asked if I was ready for my first day at St. Mary's Academy. I remember, and I told you I was scared but excited, and that I'd never forget where I came from or the lesson you taught me." Michael nodded, remembering that conversation vividly. "Well, I'm still scared and excited. I'm scared because being responsible for sick children is terrifying. I'm excited because I get to spend my life helping people heal. And I definitely haven't forgotten where I came from or what you taught me." "What lesson was that again?" Emily Claire smiled, the same radiant expression that had transformed his life. "That angels help each other, that real wealth comes from the heart, and that sometimes the most broken people have the most beautiful souls, if someone is brave enough to see past the brokenness." That evening, as the sun set over the Phoenix skyline, Michael, Jennifer, and Emily Claire sat together on the roof garden of the medical center, sharing takeout pizza and watching their city light up below them. Jennifer, now 48 and working as the Director of Community Outreach for Phoenix Hope Development, had never remarried, but had built a life full of purpose and joy. Michael had found love with Patricia Williams, a social worker he'd met through their housing projects, and they'd been married for 2 years. "You know what I was thinking today?" Emily Claire said, taking a bite of pizza with the unself-conscious appetite of a teenager. "I was thinking about that little girl who saved up $15 to buy a backpack." "What about her?" Michael asked. "She thought $15 was a lot of money. She thought it was enough to change her whole life." Emily Claire gestured toward the medical center below them, where the lights were beginning to come on in patient rooms. She had no idea how right she was. Michael looked at this remarkable young woman who had saved his soul with a simple act of generosity and realized that she was absolutely right. $15 hadn't just changed her life, or his life, or Jennifer's life. Those $15 had rippled outward like stones thrown into still water, touching thousands of families through Phoenix Hope Development's affordable housing, the medical center's free health care, and the scholarship program they'd established for children from working families. "Emily Claire," he said softly, Your $15 didn't just change a life, they changed a whole community. No, Mr. Michael, Emily Claire corrected with the wisdom that had always made her seem older than her years. The money didn't change anything. The love behind the money, that's what changed everything. As stars began to appear in the desert sky above Phoenix, Dr. Emily Claire Martinez looked out over the city she'd chosen to serve and felt her father's presence as strongly as if he were sitting beside them. Officer John Martinez had died protecting his community, but his daughter was carrying on his mission in her own way. One patient, one family, one act of kindness at a time. And in the distance, the neon sign of that same Kroger supermarket where it all began flickered in the night, a reminder that angels can appear anywhere, anytime, in any form, sometimes even as an 8-year-old girl with $15 and a heart full of love.